One. Welcome, everyone. My name is Coach David, and I am here with Financial Aid Secrets. Today, we're going to have a little bit of a training on what seniors should be doing right now. Okay. Now, I know that every family probably has friends that are seniors, or their students might be seniors, right? Now, as you're going through this process, you probably heard, they're staying up until 2 a.m. working on their essays and applications and doing this and doing that, right? But a big part of the puzzle that a lot of the seniors are missing out on is actually doing their financial aid pieces. Okay. So we're going to talk about that today and what you need to be doing. Okay. All right. So just a little bit about the agenda today, right? We're going to talk a little bit about who we are. We've had a lot more people joining our Facebook group, a lot more people joining our coaching programs. If you didn't know, I'm also the head coach in our coaching program for College Admission Secrets, right? We're going to talk about a new president, possibly new policies, and then we're going to talk about seniors, right? What should you be doing? Okay. And I'm going to get very in depth with what you should be doing. Okay. Now, first off, who are we? Okay. We are Financial Aid Secrets. We're here every single week, right? Well, there's going to be a couple weeks during the holiday season where we're probably not going to be here, but every other week we are here Wednesday at 6 p.m. We want to make sure that you guys have all the information that you guys need about financial aid, new trends, new things that are happening with the forms, new policies that are going to take effect. We try to bring all those up, okay? If you have questions, right, the one thing that we ask in our program is for you to reach out. So make sure that you're engaging us through Discord for our coaching families, by email, Facebook Messenger. Coach Joanna has probably messaged you. A lot of our messages go unread, and it's because your Facebook settings are set so that we cannot send you a message. Okay. So you might need to go into your spam folder or your message request folder to see the actual message from us. Or you can take a more proactive approach and message us directly. Okay. So after this presentation, if you have any questions, message us on Facebook, email us, message us on Discord if you're one of our coaching families so that we can answer your questions. Okay. So just a little bit about kind of like our team, right? So I have been doing this for 15 years. I have also fostered every member on our team that is working with me on financial aid, right? Our goal is to make college more predictable and also more affordable, okay? We want families to get the money they deserve. Every year, there are billions of dollars in financial aid that is not claimed or not taken, and then it just rolls over to the next year. Why can't we just take 0.0001% of that? Okay. That is what I try to do for families. Okay. So hopefully I'm able to help your family, right? And there are families that I can help, and there's families that I can't help. I tell families all the time. I've recently talked to some families, and I'm like, in your situation, even with my help, this would be how much you would get, right? And it's like, but you would get that on your own. And then I would also say, for your family, there's nothing I can do for you. Unfortunately, maybe your income is too high, right? So I don't beat around the bush. I tell you if I can and I can't, right? And then we move on from there. Okay. Now I'm going to talk about some financial aid news, right? Now, over the past like 2 or 3 weeks, I brought you really juicy nuggets, right? Oh, there's a lawsuit against like some of the top prestigious universities in the United States, right? Based on like them kind of like being in cahoots with each other, trying to lower the amount of financial aid that's being given, right? There was also a lawsuit that was just settled. I think it was in I think the lawsuit was filed in February, and then it just got started to get settled in October, where again they were kind of working together to kind of like bring down the financial aid that was given to families. And so some schools had to pay upwards of 10, 20, 30 million dollars in settlement funds. Okay. But today it's a little bit more predictive, right? But as everyone knows, we do have a new president-elect. Okay. So, new president, new era. I was hoping for some better news, right? But looking over all of the things that have been said about kind of financial aid and kind of this whole process and kind of what's going to be happening moving forward, I'm not that hopeful. Okay. So whenever there's a new president, they have these new kind of ideas, right? Doesn't matter what side of the political spectrum you're on, right? But it does affect financial aid. Okay. There have been talks that the president-elect wants to cut funding and basically get rid of the Department of Education. Now, if they get rid of the Department of Education, sorry, that is my dog squeaking a toy at me, right? Um, let me get back on my train of thought. They're talking about cutting financial aid. They're also talking about getting rid of the Department of Education. Now, what does that mean? That means that there are going to be grants that are no longer being able to be given out, right? And that certain other kind of grants or scholarships might disappear or decrease. Okay. Now, the figure that was given by President-elect, right, was $4 billion over his term. Okay. That's $1 billion a year, right? If we think about how many students are going to college, that is a significant amount of financial aid loss per student over the next 4 years. Now, will this actually happen? Who knows, right? There has to be a bill that passes through Congress, all this and that, so on and so forth. So that is what the president has said, the president-elect, right? But we don't know exactly what's going to be happening in the near future. So keep your eyes peeled. I will let you know if there's any other kind of updates to the kind of possible closing of the Department of Education and the lessening of financial aid. Okay. So let's talk about seniors, right? So for seniors, welcome to the battle. Okay. This is truly a battle. It is a battle that will kind of decide your debt-free future or your debt-filled future. Okay. So let's talk about where your senior should be right now. Okay. So let's just talk about a general senior timeline. So for a lot of students, right, they should have completed their early action or early decision college apps, right? Now, a lot of those schools also had these kind of conditional things that need to happen for your financial aid. They have given you guidelines as far as like when things need to be turned in. So, and kind of like when, certain different forms need to get turned in, right? So the financial aid deadlines and the kind of college application deadlines are a little bit different. So it's something that you need to stay on top of, right? It might be even good to kind of have a chart kind of or like an Excel kind of spreadsheet that shows you the college when their application deadline is, also when their financial aid deadline is, so that you know exactly what you need to do. But you need to be making sure that you're staying on top of these things. Okay. So if your student has applied EA and ED, there are some deadlines that are probably coming up for you specifically. Okay. So here's what needs to be done. Okay. Now I've gone over this many, many times before, but I always get questions. What's that? What do you mean I have other things I need to do? Right? Wait, why are there other things I have to do kind of in addition to the things I've already done? Right? So these are the things that you could have to do depending on the schools that you are applying to this year. Okay. Now, one thing that has to happen at every single school that you are applying to is FAFSA. Now, as many of you guys have heard in our kind of presentations that we've been having, is that FAFSA is delayed, okay? There was supposed to be a soft launch on October 1st, right? That soft launch did not happen, okay? Well, let, let me backtrack that. It did happen for a very select number of schools. So if you weren't applying to one of those select number of schools, or you weren't a continuing student at one of those select number of schools, then the FAFSA is not available to you. They emailed it out to specific people, okay? So it's not really a soft launch. It's not like some people were able to get in a certain time frame. It was by invite only. So I'm going to consider that the soft launch never happened. Now they're saying that the hard launch is December 1st. One of the predictions that I made a while back, right, is that it's not going to happen on December 1st, right? I'm still going to stick to that. We have about 25 days to see if it's actually going to open. I doubt it's going to open. There's going to be something else that happens. But anyway, right? The FAFSA is something that needs to get done for every single American, university that you're going to be applying to. The CSS profile is something that you will need if your school requires it. And I know it seems like I'm kind of being very generic with my answer, but it's very hard to say that there's only certain types of schools that require it. Okay. The CSS profile is something that is generally used by a lot of private schools, but there are also public schools out there that use the CSS profile as well, right? One of those, just as an example, is University of Michigan. Okay. So it is something that might also need to get done. You need to check your school's, the college's website to see exactly what they need, right? The third piece is IDOC. This is also school specific, right? Some schools will use the CSS profile. The CSS profile and the IDOC are two kind of like complementary systems, okay? And so there are schools that use the CSS and IDOC, right? They're both run by College Board. And there's also schools that just use the CSS. So there is a situation where you might need to do the FAFSA, the CSS profile, and IDOC. Now, in addition to that, at each individual school, the first three, I left them kind of like unread because those are ones that are going to be a little bit easier. The reason why they are a little bit easier is that those are centralized systems. Once you finish the form one time, you can send it to every single school that you're applying to that needs that form. Okay. Now, these verification forms, the income, employment, dependent verification, that's on a school by school basis. So if you're applying to 25 schools, you have to fill out 25 different forms, 25 different times, right? And then there are school specific forms. These school specific forms, right, are forms that, again, some schools have and some schools don't, right? One of the kind of like schools that has a lot of them is USC. In their heyday of financial aid madness, they had close to 20 forms. They had 18 additional forms that you needed to fill out in order to get financial aid from USC, right? But they've toned it down. I haven't seen a school that has more than 10, but there are specific forms. So this is what's on your radar. FAFSA, CSS profile, IDOC, verification forms, right? Times however many number of colleges that you're applying to, plus school-specific forms multiplied by the number of colleges that you're applying to. So there could be anywhere between, I don't know, 100 to 250 forms, 300 forms that you need to fill out, okay? This is what you have to be looking forward to. Now, no one looks forward to work, right? But, right, you need to understand what there could be so that you don't get blindsided, okay? These forms, while they may be simple, you need to make sure they're in by the deadlines. You need to make sure that you are doing them correctly, okay? So that is a basic overview of the forms that you're going to need, right? Now, some other basic info, right? We know the FAFSA has been delayed, tentative date, December 1st. With a big part of this that is very important is that colleges have now instituted their own policies on how they're going to deal with it, okay? So just like I said, colleges are doing their own things, CSS, other things. I'm going to kind of give you a little bit of a rundown, okay? So this has been the college's reactions. Some have created their own forms, okay? So just for instance, there are some Ivy League schools that were like, you know what? This is going to take way too long again this year. We have students that are applying early decision. They need their financial aid awards so that they can make their final decisions. So they created their own forms, right? So for instance, I believe Princeton has their own form. I believe UPenn this year has their own form that you need to turn in even before you turn in your CSS and even before you turn in your FAFSA so that students applying early decision are able to get their financial aid awards back with their acceptances, okay? Others are going to be doing a preliminary award based on your CSS profile, okay? So because the FAFSA is not available until December 1st, and even if they receive it on December 1st, it takes anywhere between 6 and 10 weeks to process, right? What that means is that they're not going to be able to send out acceptances based on that. Okay, so instead, a lot of schools are asking, hey, fill out the CSS profile. Now, the CSS profile, I've told you guys over and over again that the CSS profile is like the FAFSA on steroids. Okay, it goes deeper into your life than it's basically like a tax audit. You need to have all your information there, and we're going to talk about what information you need, right? But because the CSS profile has all that information, then they can go ahead and use that. And then later, right, after they give you a preliminary award, they can use the CSS profile or the FAFSA to confirm and then kind of solidify and kind of like finalize your award. Okay. Now, other schools have told us that they're not going to give any aid awards until they receive the FAFSA. Okay. So those are the kind of the three kind of college reactions that I have seen across the board, right? Each school is coming up with their own solution as they're going through this process. So you need to look very carefully, okay? Because if you think, oh, well, this school only accepts the FAFSA, so, well, the FAFSA is not out yet, I can't turn it in. Well, that might not be the case. There might be an additional kind of form that they want you to fill out before the FAFSA is turned in. Okay. So here are a couple things about what you should be doing this week. Okay. Here's the ammunition that you need to prepare for this battle. Okay. So you need parents, you need your social security number. Now, while most adults memorize their social security number because they use it over and over again when they're applying for jobs or doing this or kind of filling out any kind of tax paperwork, that's fine. Your student social security number, some parents memorize it, but some parents have this card somewhere in a picture album. You need to go find that because you need to be able to confirm that the social security number that you have for your student is the correct one. Okay. Now, a lot of families are probably thinking, oh my God, I know my kid's social security number, but can you risk your financial aid award on it? The answer is probably no. So you need to make sure. I have even had a parent that was filing taxes and putting their dependent, like their child, right, on their tax return. And they had used for the last 18 years, they were using the wrong social security number. Do you know how we found out that it was the wrong social security number? When I tried to create a FAFSA account for them, it wouldn't match up the name, birthday, and the social security number that was on their tax form. And so looking deeper into it, there was one digit that was off. But for 18 years, they had thought that that was the student's social security number, right? Good thing that there was no other issues, right? And that we were able to later fix that. But again, please make sure you're using the right social security number. For seniors, you will also need your 2023 tax returns. Okay. Now, we are at a point in the year where every extension that you technically could have gotten, unless there is an extenuating circumstance, has been used. So your taxes should now be filed for 2023. Okay. Let me put it this way. If they're not filed yet, you better have a really good reason, right? Because the FAFSA and all the schools you're applying to are going to ask what's going on. Okay. So if there is a specific situation why you haven't filed your 2023 taxes yet, you might want to talk to me to see what we can possibly do, right? If you have filed your 2023 taxes, you're good to go. Okay. If you have a copy in your hand, you should be ready and armed with the information that you need. Okay. Now, I'm giving you the information that you need for every single form, basically, right? So for the FAFSA, the CSS, like IDOC, all these things, right? So they're going to ask for a lot of these different things. A lot of people might be like, oh, I've done the FAFSA before. I didn't need my W-2s. I didn't need this stuff. I didn't need this and this, right? Yes, that's correct. But the other forms do need it. Okay. So you'll need W-2s, 1099s, any other like earned income tax forms, right? You will need a record of any child support or alimony paid. Okay. The current balance of your accounts, right? Everything. Okay. The net worth of your investments, businesses, if you have a farm and your retirement. A lot of families, when I tell them that retirement is part of this process, are scared out of their minds. Okay. I understand retirement is meant for your kind of like future, right? After you finish working, right? You can go sit in the sun, sip a pina colada, right? That is what it's supposed to be for, right? The colleges are trying to take that, but there are ways around that, right? And so we will talk about those as well, right? And then you also need to have kind of records of your untaxed income and benefits. Okay. So those are kind of like most of the things that you'll need. If you have all of these things ready, you should be pretty well armed to go into the forms. Okay. So there's two things that you should be doing this week, right? You should create a College Board account, right? Now, parents, don't freak out, right? Your student probably already has one. If your student has taken an AP exam before, or the SAT, or the PSAT, they most likely have access to a College Board account. They might not remember their kind of their password, right? But they should have access to the email that they used, so they should be able to get it. One pro tip here for the College Board is if it is linked to your student's kind of high school email address, you need to change that right away. The reason is because your high school is not generous enough to hold on to your email account for the next, I don't know, 10 years. Okay. So just in case you ever need to do something with the CSS profile while you're in college, let's say you forget your password again, you don't have access to your high school email anymore. Well, you're out of luck, right? You're not going to be able to get into your account. It's going to be a whole process to get you verified and get you, your account access, right? So if it is linked to your high school email account, please change that right away. Okay. Now, the CSS profile, right? For a lot of parents, they kind of misunderstand because the FAFSA is one way and the CSS profile is another. The CSS profile gets turned in under the student's account, right? The parents, you don't need to make one, so don't worry about it, right? And again, like I said before, the CSS is used mainly for private schools, but some private schools also do require it. Now, this website, just collegeboard.org, right? And you should be able to log in and then find your way to the CSS profile. The easiest way to get there is just type in CSS profile College Board, and it'll be the first search result that you find. Okay. Now, the other account that you should create is your FAFSA account. Okay. Now, one thing. If you are already part of our coaching program, or not coaching program, our financial aid program, please do not create anything. We will be having meetings to create everything together, right? And so you do not need to worry about any of that. Okay. But if you're not part of our program, right, and you're going to do this on your own, these are the steps you should be going through. Okay. For the FAFSA, you do need to create this account, right? One of the reasons why I kind of am having, families kind of start a little bit earlier than last year is because with the delays, I'm not exactly sure like if there's going to be any problems matching your identity with your FAFSA account, right? So I want to make sure that families do this earlier if possible. Okay. Obviously, one of the big things is you don't want to get pulled into like kind of scam websites or this and that and give them your social and your address and your phone number. That just gives away all your personal information. The website you should be going to is studentaid.gov. If you're being pulled into anything else, it's the wrong website. Okay. Here, I say do not fill anything out. And like, I just want you to create your account. That's it. I want you to have a way to log in, but I do not want you to fill anything out until after December 1st. Every college website that I have gone to has told us we're not sure exactly what's happening and like this and that, so on and so forth. So we want you to wait until this after December 1st or after the FAFSA officially opens, right? So that you run into less problems. Because last year, when we went through this whole process and whole problem kind of area, we ran into a lot of issues where a lot of people got stuck in limbo. I had a family, we filled it out like even it was like 2 weeks after, the FAFSA had officially opened, and they got stuck in limbo and they were processing for 3 months. Okay. So we had turned in everything in December, or actually it was December 28th it opened. So it was actually like, I think it was like January 10th, right? And they were stuck in limbo for 3 months until April, right? Now, if you think about it, it's like April. What do you mean? April's when you get your results back. Yeah, they got all their results back, and their financial aid wasn't finalized because their FAFSA was in limbo, right? And so it was continuing to process. It wouldn't let us cancel it. Even if we called, they couldn't do anything for us. They're like, oh, it's in limbo. And then finally, right, by the grace of the gods, right, it was finally submitted and accepted and processed. Okay. And they were able to get their financial aid award, but they got their financial aid award in July. Okay. So it was a little bit stressful for that family, right? But at the end of the day, we were able to help them out pretty significantly. Okay. So again, CSS profile, you do need to create one, right? Your student probably already has it. So just make sure that they do, make sure that it is a personal email that the student's going to keep. The second, FAFSA. Again, don't use school emails. Don't use any of that. Use personal emails. Okay. And create the account, but wait, okay? Do not fill anything out, okay? Here are a couple of common sense things that I want to make sure that people, realize as they're filling out these forms, right? So I know they seem like common sense, but these are problems that I've seen before, and that's why I bring them up, okay? Both you and your student must use your legal names. This is a federal form. Okay. You cannot use your lived name or a preferred name or your nickname. It doesn't matter if for 35 years, your friends and family and everyone you know has been calling you Jenny. Okay. If your name is Jennifer, that's what you need to put on your form. Okay. Please. This is going to do like mess things up if you don't do this, right? I know that there's people, right? Coach Tony, right? My partner in College Admission Secrets, right? He's been called Tony for a long time. but that's not his legal name. Okay, his legal name is Anthony, right? Luckily, I didn't really have that many nicknames, right? It was just David, right? So I haven't really had to kind of deal with that, like forgetting to put my real legal name, right? So make sure to do that, okay? Please check your birth dates. You need to use your legal birth date, okay? Now, I've dealt with this a lot because in other countries, right? If you're from another country, their system might be different, right? Just one example is my own mother. Okay. My own mother has three birthdays, right? But her legal birthday is on March 8th. Okay. Now, for the other birthdays, right? Well, you're questioning, like, why does she have three birthdays? Okay. Well, back in the day, the records weren't that great in South Korea. So when they filed the birth certificate, they weren't really sure what date it got filed, right? Because they're going back and forth between the kind of like normal calendar that we know of, right? And also the lunar calendar, right? So she has her legal birthday that's on her driver's license and her passport, right? And then she has her like the birthday that her family members have always told her it is, and that's June 25th, right? And then after we checked everything of when she was actually born and this and that, we actually found out that according to the lunar kind of calendar, it should actually be July 5th, right? So she has a birthday in March, a birthday in June, and a birthday in July. Now, luckily, we don't celebrate all three, right? Well, we do celebrate all three, but there's only one really big one, which is her June 25th birthday, which is actually not her legal birthday. So I bring this up because there are people that are in that situation, right? And people that have a different birthday, right? So just remember, it needs to be the one that is on your legal documents. Spelling errors. This is the one that I see the most, right? When you type Michael very quickly on your keyboard, sometimes the A, it comes after the E, and then you don't really realize it because your eyes think it looks right. Okay. But spelling your name wrong, okay, having an extra space somewhere, doing this, doing that, these spelling errors can delay the process indefinitely. If they cannot match the way that your name is spelled on your legal documents and with your social security number and all of these different pieces, your kind of identity will not be completed, like the verification, and you will not be able to turn in any forms. Okay. And this is a final one. And I know that this happens a lot because, again, this has happened to families that I've worked with. There was a family, they, for some reason, all of their stuff got hacked and they had to change their phone numbers and change their emails, right? That put a huge wrench into doing your financial aid because they email you with the authentication. They send you a text message with the two-factor authentication. And in order to change your email and your phone number, you need to get a two-factor authentication on the number that was originally there, right? So if you are planning to change your phone number or the email, right, you might as well do it now before you start with everything else. Okay. So just keep it simple. Okay. Now, quick warning here. Okay. This is the warning that I have. Okay. I don't want families to delay this year, right? It's already delayed on its own. There's no reason for us to delay, right? The question that I have for families is your time, right? Like of doing all these forms now and getting things ready, is that worth tens of thousands of dollars during your student's college journey, right? If you're like, oh, my time is so valuable that it's worth 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, $80,000, right? For me to get this ready now, then okay, then yes, don't heed this message, right? But if you're worried and you want to make sure that you're staying on track, right? Then you need to make sure that you're getting this one message through your brain tonight. Okay? It is this. Colleges are looking for any reason to disqualify you. If you're 1 minute late, right? If you didn't fill out the form they wanted, right? If you accidentally put it in green font instead of black font, right? If you didn't sign your name pretty enough, they're looking for any reason to disqualify you. While there is some flexibility because of the delays that are happening this year, there are some deadlines that cannot be missed. So make sure that you know exactly when things are due. Okay. So please, 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 right? If you're a billionaire, well, I'm not sure why you're here if you're a billionaire, right? But if you are, then don't worry about it, right? But if you're a family that's, like, hey, we have made a comfortable life for ourselves, but $100,000 for 1 year of college is still a significant amount of money. Then please make sure this happens because I don't want to get emailed or on Discord or Facebook later. And it's like, oh, you know what? Is there anything you can do for me? Like I missed the deadline by 3.5 months, right? Please don't be that person. Okay. All right. And again, finally, we are here to help, right? After every one of my financial aid secrets kind of presentations, I'm always like emotionally drained because I want to make sure people get the money they want, but a lot of people kind of just like it kind of goes in 1 year and goes out the other, right? But please know, we are here to help. I've had probably several thousand consultations over the last year, right? And during those consultations, again, I have families that I can help. I have families I can't help, and I have families that I can help a lot, right? So again, I think the one big kind of mistake that a lot of people make is being like, oh, well, yeah, my neighbor told me that we're not going to get anything, right? Your neighbor doesn't know you, right? It's not like you guys are intimate like that and share your tax returns, right? So you should talk to us, right? But if you come to our trainings, you're going to learn about kind of what college expenses look like, right? You're going to understand kind of the financial aid and how to maximize it, right? And you can set up a consultation to talk with us so that we can walk you through this minefield. Okay. So please, please, please reach out to us so that we can help. Okay. And just like every week, I want to show my success stories, right? So this is an example of a family that I helped just last year, right? And they got $44,000 in free money to go to Penn. Okay. This school ended up costing less than a full price UC for them. Okay. This student went to UCLA, right? Their cost of attendance was $17,000 a year. That was just a little under $6,000 per quarter at UCLA. Okay. That's a huge drop from having to pay 14,000 a year or 14,000 a quarter. Okay. And then my alma mater, the Claremont Colleges, I saved this family almost $58,000. They were going to a private liberal arts college for less than it would cost to go to their local CSU. Okay. So these are just some of my recent victories, right? And so I wanted to share them with you. Now, I do want to open up to Q&A because I know that there's probably questions out there. There's also a link here, right? A QR code if you want to sign up for a consultation, right? Now, last week, for those of you that were here, right? Thank you guys for signing up for that kind of special offer, right? Just so that I can tease a little bit, right? The people that signed up for their consultation from last week's live session here, they were actually able to get a special kind of contract where it was like, you know what, if I'm not able to save you money because I wasted your time, I'm going to give you $200 in cash, right? If I'm not able to save you the money that I tell you on your consultation. Okay. So that one is gone now, right? There was actually 14 people that signed up for that deal. They were like, oh, there's nothing to lose, right? And if anything, I'm making $200 in, I don't know. Well, if your student's a senior, I'm making, $200 in 6 months if David's wrong, right? That is gone now, but we still have a lot of kind of options for you for families. So if you are interested in signing up for a consultation, I just did put the link into the chat, and I also have the QR code up there for you guys to use as well. Okay, but I did want to open up for Q&A to make sure that we answer any questions that people have. So I'll kind of wait for questions to come in. And for those that need to kind of go on to dinner and other things, thank you for spending a little bit of time with me tonight. Okay. All right, so we'll just wait for some questions to roll in here. All right, we have a question here, and it says, on the CSS profile for the sections that are not required, student asset type, do not click yes or no. Is that acceptable? I'm assuming that the colleges will email if they need some additional info. If they don't overshare strategy recommended, or will it only slow getting financial aid work? So generally speaking, it depends, right? But for that particular question that you asked about student assets, usually students don't have assets other than maybe their checking account, right? So, I mean, I know that there are students that do have assets. Like I have a student and like, there was a family home that was kind of like bequeathed to him, from his aunt or uncle, right? And so that was his asset, right? But other than those kind of extreme cases, usually students don't have much under their own name, right? Now, if your student does, then, again, it's not a required section. So should you tell them? No, right? You should make them fight for every single thing that they want to see from you. Okay. But generally, yes, you are correct. The do not overshare is probably the best. I think your question is when should I fill for 2026 grad? So for your 2026 grad, congratulations. You don't have to worry about it for right now, right? But when you should worry about it is basically the summer of next year. You need to start getting things prepared, getting things ready. Okay. I always tell families this, right? Some families are really good about filing their taxes. Sometimes they're not, right? But for the year that is important for your senior, right? So if you're a 2026 grad, then your 2024 taxes are the what is going to be used. Your 2024 taxes will be over in about 2 months, right? After they're over, if you can file them as quickly as possible or by the first actual real deadline, April 15th, you should be fine, right? But if you're like a lot of families that push it out, or if you have a business and you push it out, that's not what we want for that 2024 year. So at least for your student's first year of financial aid, you want to make sure that you have the appropriate tax return ready to go. Okay. We have another question here. It says, do I include crypto for current market value of investments? Technically speaking, yes, right? It depends on where you have it, right? I don't know. Some people have it on like this like super encrypted like darknet type of situation. Well, no one knows about that, right? But if you have it in like Coinbase or in Robinhood or on crypto, like a crypto app or things like that, one of the things that they make you do is that they have you put in your social security number and they probably send you a tax form every year about like, your kind of gains and minuses. Right. So for that situation, technically speaking, yes, you do need to, unless you're one of the dark net wizards. Okay. All right. Any additional questions? I'll kind of do last call for questions so that we can end off. I didn't realize that it was this late. Okay. Um, we have a question here and it says CSS profile asked my senior had worked in 2023. She did, even though it was less than $9,000, they're asking for a W-2. How will this affect? It shouldn't affect it that much, right? It shouldn't have affected that much, right? So it's not like they were making, tens of thousands of dollars, right? So I'm guessing that over the course of the year, she was doing kind of, she had a job, she was working. Over the course of the year, she made $9,000. If we break that down over 12 months, that's realistic like $820 a month, right? So then I think you should be fine. If they ask for a W-2, unfortunately, you have to turn it in, right? So for those pieces, I think you should be okay. Usually where it starts to become a problem is when it's like 20, 30, 40, $50,000 a year. Then it's like, oh, this student is making a significant amount of money, right? And then it's like, oh, we gotta punish them a little bit, right? But $9,000 over the course of a year, it's less than $1,000 a month. I think you'll be okay. Okay. Um, we have here, okay, let's see if I can answer this question. How would I know for student 2026, I just need to work on tax filing starting from January 1st? No. So if your student is a 2026 graduate from high school, the tax return they'll be using is the tax return from 2 years before. So it'll be the 2024 tax return, right? The one that is the tax year that is ending in 2 months. That's the one there. Okay. We have another question. It says, can parents write zero for parent contribution under student resources, or will that raise a red flag? Usually, like even if, it depends on kind of like the income situation, but I don't have a problem with writing zero, but it's very hard to think that parents will contribute nothing, right? So I would, I've actually found that writing a certain, like kind of like a minimal amount actually does better because it shows the college that the parents are still trying to kind of help out, right? A student going to college and then, taking on debt and things like that, it's something that colleges technically don't want to see because that's actually bad for their image at the end of the day. So I would put in like an amount that you guys think is okay, right? Somewhere in the kind of like maybe 2 to 5% of your income, right? So if you're like around $100,000, then maybe like somewhere between $2 and $5,000 a year, right? Might be a kind of okay area, like kind of amount to put down there, right? Now, whether you end up doing that or not, right? That's a different story, right? But the question here is like, okay, are the parents also invested in the student's success, right? And I think if we show a number, I think it does look a little bit better. Okay. All right, all right. So thank you guys for the questions. They were great questions. One more time, I'm going to go ahead and put the link for the financial aid consultation. It doesn't matter if you're in 10th grade, 11th grade, ninth grade. I don't care if your family's in third grade, right? I want to talk to you because you need to understand what the possibilities are and are not for your family, right? That way you can plan, right? Maybe instead of having to save for college, you guys can take that vacation to I don't know, the Alps, right? Or you guys can go scuba diving with the dolphins in Florida, right? Whatever else it is, right? Make sure that you guys are getting the information that you need. Okay. I just had a comment. Thank you so much. I look forward to Wednesday evenings. I look forward to Wednesday evenings as well, even though it emotionally drains me because I feel like I'm doing something and giving back, right? And again, if you guys do have any questions about specific things or things that you want to see, let me know and I'll try to work it into my presentations. Okay. So, again, it was great talking to all of you tonight. If you do have additional questions, make sure to reach out to us, and then we'll talk to you guys again soon. I'll leave this screen up for a little bit so you guys can take a kind of screenshot or take a picture or scan the QR code. But if you guys do have anything else, reach out and we'll talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.